Hello y'all, welcome back to episode 8 of our full site build. In our last episode we built this section out, and today specifically we are going to take this intro here and turn it into a component. It's going to get a little bit advanced, so hopefully you can learn a lot from this. We're going to be using a lot of conditions and some props in order to determine what is going to be used for these, because as we look at our Figma here, you can see we have an option here with like a pill here. We have one with no accent heading above in different color. This one does have an accent. This one has an accent, but you can see again different colors. This one has an accent but no lead, but then we have this here, and then this goes back to just the standard version. So you can see we have a handful of different versions of this that we're going to need to make, and using this same component we're going to achieve just through the use of conditions and using props to make that possible here. So let's dive in. We have our actual intro here, and I think what I will do is I'm going to rename this into section intro for when we make our component here. And there's a few things we're going to need inside of here. So if I look at what we all have, we have our heading wrapper, we have our icon, we have our heading here, we have our headline with some text span, and then we have our lead. So this is just our most basic one. Obviously we'll have another version with just this heading, no pill, and no icon. So let's start diving into this. What I'm going to first do is just take our section intro here, and I'm going to go create component. So now you can see our section intro is our component here. I'm going to go ahead and probably start adding in a few more things. So one of the things I want to do is change some of the naming of these things. So the very first one I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to my marketing headline, and I'm going to change this to my SEO heading. My lead can stay the same, my heading wrapper can stay the same, section intro is fine. I'm not going to redo all of the CSS, although there will be some other classes I'm going to add in as we do this. So, all right, very first thing I want to do is we have the why choose us as our SEO heading. I am going to duplicate this so that we have another one. I'm going to pull this outside of our heading wrapper because we're not going to need it inside our heading wrapper once this disappears. We have our marketing headline, which is, as you can see, a P tag here, even though it looks like our heading, but it's just a headline. Now, if we want to get rid of our SEO heading, we're going to have a marketing headline that is an H2. So I'm going to duplicate this. So we have two. On this top one, I'm going to change this to an H2. So you can see everything looks the same. I'm going to add a class here, and we'll call it intro headline, and we'll call this H2. So you can see I have the modifier on here, similar to how we do our double underscore. We do a double dash here to get our modifier in BEM classes. So I'm going to do that because I want this to be only on my actual H2. So I'm going to add that in, and it's going to allow us to style that specific one as we go through this, because there's going to be some differences depending on how we do this. All right, so we have two marketing headings, we have two SEO headings, we have our lead, and inside each of our marketing headings we have our span, which we don't need to add any classes to because we're just going to target that with some nesting, just like we did here. And I will end up changing a handful of this out as we go through this. So I think the very first thing I want to do is start adding in my props over here on the left-hand side. And the very first one I want to do is going to be our theme. So for that, I'm going to use a select field, and I'm just going to call this theme. In here, we're going to have a few different options. Here you can see we have our danger option. If we go back over here, we have our secondary option, and then we have our primary option, and this one is going to be a light version. So right now, I think I'm going to make my secondary, this blue color, my primary one. So in here, I'm just going to call this secondary space colon secondary. Next one I will do is primary. And then the last one will be the danger. So that'll give us an option to choose which theme of these we are going to want. From there, I'm going to add in a Boolean prop. This is going to be a has SEO heading. So that's going to be this why choose us. If we take that out, we need to again make sure that this marketing headline changes from a P tag to an H2. So we're going to do that with this has SEO heading along with hiding these other ones. Along with that, we want to add another Boolean that's going to be is a pill. So will this be this version or will it be this version? So that's what we're going to do here. I'm going to set that as off to as the default, where this one we're leaving as on as the default. Then from there, we are going to need to add in a media prop, and this will be our icon. Then we're going to add in a text field, and this will be our SEO heading. Next, we're going to add in another text field, and this one will be our marketing headline. And then I'm going to add in another Boolean. This is going to be has lead, and then finish it off with another text as our lead. So as we go through these, we'll set up each of these so that they pull properly into what we are looking for. So if I start out with our SEO headline, I can click on my target here, and I can choose that. If I come back up here, I can set it here as well. If I go to my marketing headline, I can set that there. And then I want to set that here as well. And then my lead, click and set that. My icon, I can click and set that. We can see if our icon actually put our source in, and it did not, so I'll have to do that manually. So it's just going to be props.icon. And right now you can see it just goes back to our default. If I go ahead and add in our icon, which is not going to let me do right now, it'll show the proper one as we build out our component, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'm just going to leave that as is. I'm going to hit save just so we save this very first option here. Then we can start doing some styling throughout this. I think the first part that we'll go through and do is on our section intro, I need to add my data attribute. So we're going to do data.theme, and that's going to equal our props.theme. So I like to try and match up what we're doing here with my props so I know exactly what we're using. When you do enter this in, you'll have to put the quotes around the curly brackets. You can hit enter and you can see it adds it in. Even though the quotes are no longer around it, if you try and add it without the quotes, it's not going to add in there. I found that out by just some trial and error, so I just want to always call that out. So how I'm going to go about doing this is nesting a lot of this inside our parent here. There's some ways we can target it on an element level, but I find it easier and it makes a little bit more sense if I do it all from the parent. That way I can just see everything in one spot for what I'm changing based on my data attributes. So in order to do that, I'm going to do I'm going to put square brackets and we're going to do data.theme equals, and in our very first one we're going to start with secondary. If you put an I at the end here, that means that we can have this be capitalized or lowercase and it should all still work, no problem. From here, we're going to have to decide what is all going to need to go inside of here. So I know we're going to need to target our heading wrapper, our icon, our SEO heading, our marketing heading, our lead, and our span inside of our marketing heading. So I find it easiest to just build one of them out and kind of keep adding from there. So the very first one we're going to add in is going to be our heading wrapper. I'm not going to put any classes in, I'm just going to start adding these in so I get them all in, and then we can start putting everything in there. You can notice I'm stemming off my main class up here. Again, this is normally something we can do with SCSS, but inside of Etch, they give us the ability because they parse this out for us with this just being a standard vanilla CSS field here. So the next one I want to target is the first thing inside of that heading wrapper, and that's going to be our icon. Next is going to be the SEO heading, then our marketing heading, or headline I should say, and if I recall right, this is actually just our headline and this is just our heading, so I will have to adjust those. All right, next we need to also inside our headline add in our span, and then underneath this one we're going to add in our lead, and that should be all of them that we need. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so that we can see more of this at once. One thing you can always do is close some of these to make it a little bit easier to read as you go, and that way as you start you can figure out what you want to edit first. So with our heading wrapper, right now you can see we have a background color on this. So I'm actually going to take this out of here, so that's going to disappear. And in my wrapper here, it's going to show as a background of a danger color. However, you can see here we are on our secondary version. So I'm going to change this to secondary. So we should get that light blue. All right, so we got that done. For our actual heading wrapper, if we look at any of this other stuff, none of that should change. So we can leave all of that. Next is going to be our icon. So we can take our color from our icon and bring that over to our section intro. Paste that in. Again, I'm going to change this to secondary. So you can see that changes to my blue. Next is going to be my heading here. We have our color on this one as well. Come back to our intro. Inside of my heading, I'm going to paste this in, change this to secondary. You can see my color changes here again. So now we have this showing as a blue version for both my SEO heading and my pill SEO heading. Next, we have our actual marketing headline. So if we look at our marketing headline, we can see that inside our span, we have this danger color. So I'm going to pull that out and bring that up into our section intro. Paste that in. Again, we want this to be our secondary color. And if I remember, this might actually be dark. Let's take a look. Nope, it is just secondary. Perfect. Even though we're doing secondary dark up here, or semi-dark, it's very close. That should meet our contrast ratio, but we can also double check that. And like I've said in previous videos, we can come back and look at that at the end just to make sure everything meets as we expect it to. Next, we need to look at the lead, and in this version, our color is going to remain the same. So we can do one of two things. We can just set our text color to our standard text color. So in this case, I believe it is text dark, and just set it like that. So we have a property here. And now what we can start to do is copy and paste this into a second version. So I want to get all of this. I'm going to hit copy. I'm going to minimize that. Hit enter, put a space. And now the fun part is I can actually use a multi-cursor edit. So I'm going to go at the end of the Y and everywhere we have secondary. I hold command and click for that. And you can see we can easily change this to primary now. The one thing we will have to now look at on this version, again, is if we go and find the primary one, we can see now that our text should be white for our main heading color, and it should be white for our lead color. So if I jump back in and we go to here, we can change this to text light or text light muted. I can't remember which one is which. Let's go with text light for now. And then on our actual headline, we need to set our color to text light there as well. And again, once we test this out, we can verify that it's working. I'm going to hit save just to make sure we have that all working out. Next, what I want to do is close this. I'm going to copy our original one again. Hit enter. And this time we're going to change all of our secondary to danger. All right, if we hit save, we should be good on that. An easy way to test this inside of the component builder is just change the actual default in here. So if I take my danger and I move it up, you can see our icon change color, our SEO heading change color, our span change color, and our text everywhere else stayed the same. If I take that out and bring up my primary, you can see we get that to change to our primary dark up here, which we may need to change that to our primary light. And you can see our text is white here. I think we are going to need to change that. So on our primary one, we want our icon to be dark. And we could do this one of two ways. Let's take a look at our original Figma. So you can see our color here is primary semi-light, which is going to be a little bit different than our pill color if we do that. So on my heading, we're going to change this to semi-light. You can see that's a little bit harder to see right now, again, because we don't have a dark background on our intro. If I did that, just so we can see right now, just so we get some different contrast, I can put that in there to make this easier to see. I'll take that out before we go. Now we need to decide what we want to do color-wise on here. It might be best to change it to like our button color. However, we do want to still differentiate that that's not actually a button there. So in our case, it might be better. I still like leaving it fairly light, but where we're going to run into an issue is going to be with our headline. Or with our SEO heading, sorry, because we want this to be lighter on this one, but darker on this one. So we can do a couple of things here. We could add in, just like we did on our heading up here, we can do a modifier class is one way we could do it. Let me think here for a moment, because I like using the light colored background on this, but I'm going to need to make this a darker color, and I'm going to need to leave this as a lighter color just so it still sticks out on that against the blue background that we use in our secondary down here, which I suppose I could have just done as our background right here, so we can just see what that actually looks like. All right, so I think what I'll do is on my non-pill heading, I'll add in intro, and this is heading double dash, and we will go light. Add that in, and then from here, only under my secondary one, I can copy and paste this, and it should automatically override that one. So if we do light on this one and semi-dark on that one. It'd help if I put my modifier on here. Let's see. And you know, I just noticed we were doing this on the wrong one. I'm editing all this on the secondary and we want this to be on the primary one. So let's step back. I apologize for making that mistake. This should be semi-dark. That should be semi-dark. That should be semi-light. And we can double check this all in a moment. Back to my primary one, which is what we actually wanted to do this on. So we got our semi-dark up there, and I might actually just change this to dark for both of them, just so it sticks out a little bit more. The why choose us should be that semi-light. Again, if I double check this, that's what we had here. And I believe that's what we used elsewhere on our page as well up here. If I take a look here, yep, primary semi-light. So we're going to stick with that there. And even on our span here, we're going to want to change that to semi-light as well. Makes it just a little bit lighter. Okay, I'm going to hit save. Then if I take my primary back, move it here, make our secondary back here. I can take off our background because we don't need that. All right, so my headline here needs to be dark, or was it semi-dark? There we go. That should be good there. I just want to double check. We just went with our main color on that. Want to see what that ends up looking like. I think we'll just leave that as dark there. And I'm going to leave that as secondary there too, because that ends up being a little bit darker. So we just get a little bit better of a contrast ratio. And I think we should be good on that. I'm going to hit save. So next we can go into all the conditions on all of this. So I'm just going to make it easier, and we're going to wrap every one of these in a condition. So I can right click, wrap in condition. This very first one is going to be props dot has SEO heading, and props dot is pill because it's our heading wrapper. What I can also do is copy this on my SEO heading, wrap in a condition. I'm going to paste this in, but I'm going to put an exclamation point in front of my is pill. So you can see our pill has disappeared now because that's not on. If I turn that on, you can see it shows up and the other one disappears. Perfect. Next, we can come down to our H2 marketing heading, and I'm going to wrap that in a condition. And this one, I'm just going to paste this in and delete out that part, and I'm going to put the not in front of that one as well, because we only want that to show up when there's not an SEO heading. Next, we can come down to our regular heading, wrap in a condition, and we want this to show when there is an SEO heading. Our lead, we're going to wrap in a condition, and this is going to be props.hasLead. So now you can see if I come over on the left-hand side, take that out, it disappears. And I'm going to hit save. And we're going to exit to the front end. I'm going to hit save again. So now we can see if I put in my pill version, my pill shows up. If I remove my lead, that goes away. If I remove my has SEO heading, the pill goes away whether I have this on or off. Same thing goes if I do that here. Now I can set my actual icon, and I think what I need to do is come back to my media, and I got stuck in a specific folder. If I go back to all files, exit out of this, hit save, and I'm going to refresh. Come back to our section here, section intro, and we need this one here. And that's not showing up for me because we don't have the pill showing. As soon as I show the pill, our icon comes back, but it's not showing the right one. Let's hit save. We'll come back in here. And inside of our heading wrapper, what I did is had a spelling error there. Told you guys in previous episodes, I unfortunately don't type perfectly. All right, we can see our icon is working as desired now. And the last thing to test on this is going to be our different colors. So you can see that changes to the light colored text, that changes to our actual color we want for this one. Okay, perfect. One thing I want to double check is as we go and build this out, what is going to happen with our headline. So I did tired of span, and I might have to change this field here, which is okay. So you can see that's showing both here and there. I'm going to hit save. We're going to come back into our component here. And what we might have to do here is take out both of these items and then I may need to change this to our HTML element, which we can do convert to raw HTML, and you can see it automatically wraps that for us. I'm going to do the same thing up here, and you can see it still leaves it inside of our H2, so we don't have to worry about that. If I hit save, you can see this is not showing how we want. But if I come back to the front end, you can see this is working now, and it's just up to the user to change this as they see fit. Now if we take the span out, I'll just copy and paste this out here. You can see we still have a headline, it just doesn't have the color split out like we had. All right, so we have that done. If we go back, the last thing I want to show you guys is how we're going to work this one here. So what I think I'm going to do is add in a slot at the end of our component. So we jump back in, hit save, edit component. I am going to close all of these. And inside my section intro, I'm going to add a slot to the bottom, and we'll just call this, I don't know, bottom slot. Not sure how I got in the middle of that. Bottom is what we're going to call it. You can see that changed. I am going to wrap this in a div just so we can make sure everything is centered if we need to. And this we'll just call a slot wrapper. I'm going to add my class, which is going to be intro underscore slot wrapper. And on that, I don't think I'm going to need to put anything on that right now. We will test that and see in a minute. The last thing I'm going to do is wrap this in a condition. I'm going to come over to our and add in another Boolean and has slot. And this I'm going to leave off by default. And this will be props.has slot. So you see that went away. If I turn it back on, gotta spell everything right here. You can see that comes back. Turn it back off and it disappears. I'm gonna hit save. I'm gonna hit exit. And now, if I refresh, I'll hit save, refresh. Can open this back up. And you can see we can add in the bottom slot even though it's not showing it. So even though it's here, I can put something in. Like in our case, we're going to add in our rating card. You can see I have that in there, but it's not actually showing right now. Now if I come down and do add slot, you can see it is now showing that we have our rating card. And we may have to do a different version of our rating card, just because if we look up here, it's on a darker background, where later on it's going to be a dark version. So we'll have to come back and change that once we get to it. But at least you can see on this version, we can set that and get rid of the lead. We could change our pill, and now you can see we're matching what it should look like here. Again, we just have to play with our colors and wording and everything, but that's how we would achieve that one there. In this exact example, I do not need the slot, but I do need the pill, and I need my lead. I'm going to hit save, come over to the front end, and you can see we are back to how this should look for this section. Again, my colors are a little bit off, but I am happy with everything else as we go here. So that concludes making our section intro here. Again, we got a little bit advanced with targeting some of the colors and everything based on our props. So we can choose our theme. We have some conditional logic of what we're going to show. And if I look here and we inspect, pull this over for you guys, we can see our marketing headline is a P tag. If I look up here, my heading up here is now the H2. If I come down here and we get rid of that, I'm going to hit save. I'm going to refresh over here, inspect again, and now we can see this is an H2 now. So that just ensures that our heading actually shows up properly the entire time. All right, and we are back. And everything is working as we would like. If you guys have any questions about this and how we achieved it, go ahead and drop a comment. Otherwise, please leave a like and subscribe if you haven't. We're going to continue on to the next section here, building out a form section here so people can get a quote. We'll reuse our section intro. This should be pretty straightforward to build out pretty quick. I will build out the form as well in the next episode. So we will see you all there. Thanks for stopping by.